Walrus Audio, here today to introduce and talk about the Canvas Volume pedal. What I'd like to do is take you through some of the highlights of the design and the features that we've built into Canvas Volume, and then we'll take a deep dive in how to use it, how to manipulate the settings, and how to tune it to get the feel just right for how you want your volume pedal to feel and respond. So looking at how Canvas Volume is constructed, we used all metal materials to build this. There's steel and aluminum involved. It pivots on a stainless steel axle, so nothing to bend or break. And another thing you'll notice about Canvas Volume is if you look up underneath inside of it, there's no string, there's no gears, there's no potentiometer that is moved in any way. We're using a contactless position sensor system to determine the position of the treadle of the pedal, and that drives an all analog signal path using high quality VCAs to raise and lower your signal level. Let's talk about some of the parameters that you can manipulate on Canvas Volume. Because of the sensor system that we're using to drive the VCAs to determine the position of the pedal and to drive the VCAs to raise and lower your volume, that affords us the ability to offer multiple ways that you can tune the behavior and the response of Canvas Volume. So you can change things like the taper of the volume pedal, which is letting you select different curves that your signal will follow as the pedal is moved. The taper of a volume pedal is really one of the primary things that determines the feel of it to the user. What does it feel like when you move this and make those volume sweeps, those sweeps of the pedal? How is your signal responding to the changes in the physical movement of the pedal? There are 8 tapers on Canvas Volume, and each of those is a model of an existing volume pedal that's on the market. So we have taken some of the most popular volume pedals that we can get our hands on and mapped their behavior as we move those pedals and how they manipulate the signal level at each various position of the treadle. And then we've implemented those and modeled them in Canvas Volume. You can change things like the minimum on setting, which determines the level of your signal at the heel down position. You can change the gain, which sets the level of your signal at the toe down position, anywhere from below unity gain to unity gain, up to plus 9 dB of boost. So if you want to have unity gain accessible just before toe down and then be able to add a bit of boost on top of that at full toe down, you can do that as well. You can also change a setting called lag, which will determine how quickly your guitar signal responds to the pedal movement. All the way from really quick response to smoothing out fast movements of the pedal, all the way at the extreme end, it's almost like an auto swell where you can just bring the pedal from heel down to toe down and your signal will gently swell in on its own based on that longer lag setting. So let's take a look at the user interface on Canvas Volume and see how to get around and manipulate the settings that we have here. We have designed the user interface to be down here underneath the heel portion of the pedal to make it difficult to change these settings, because once you have them dialed in, you don't really want them to accidentally be changed. So they're kind of down here and hidden out of the way. And we've also taken additional steps to make that have to be intentional with the button presses, and we'll see that in a second. But first, you see that these 4 LEDs on the left that are above the buttons, they are telling us what parameter that we're manipulating. So we have taper, minimum on, gain, and lag, and we scroll through those with using just single clicks of these 2 buttons. And so we can click and go through those over and over. We can go left, we can go right. And as you move through these parameters, you see the value of each parameter, where they're set currently, displayed on the LEDs to the right. So taper, we're set to taper 1. Minimum on, we're set to setting 1 there. Gain, we're set to 5, and so on. So to manipulate these, say we want to change tapers, and which again changes the feel of how your signal level responds to the movement of the pedal. So we would scroll to the taper parameter, and then if we want to go to the right, so say we want to go to taper 4, we're going to hold down the left button, and then we're going to click the right button to scroll our taper setting to wherever we want to go to, so in this case 4. If we wanted to go back left on a particular parameter, say on gain, we're on 5. Say we want to go to 2, we would hold down the right button and click the left to scroll that value to 2. Again, this is just an extra step that makes it, forces some intentionality behind changing these settings so that you can't accidentally change one. When you make these changes, for example, on gain, we'll go back to setting 5, because that is the unity gain setting at toe down. When you make these changes, they're automatically saved by the pedal. So there's no save gesture. They're remembered now and every time that you boot up the pedal in the future until you make a change to those settings. We've built Canvas Volume to be able to operate with most common signal routing scenarios that you would run into on a pedal board. That goes from anywhere from just a mono in to mono out, to mono in, dual mono out, and then full stereo in, full stereo out. By default, if you're running this in a mono environment, you're going to go in the left jack and out the left jack. And when you do that, the right output jack will automatically serve as a tuner output. So you can run a cable from there directly to the input of a tuner, and it will not be affected by the position of the pedal. The volume of your signal will be held at unity gain. Another common configuration might be that you want to run mono in and dual mono out, in which case you would want that right output to serve as a volume controlled output. And to do this, you will go into the utility menu and make that selection for that sort of unique setup. The last common configuration you would be able to set up and run with Canvas Volume is using a stereo input and a full stereo output. So that would be connecting your left and right inputs to the left and right inputs on the pedal, and then coming out of the left and right outputs, that would be full independent signal paths and full volume control happening on both channels at the same time. Again, by default, the mono mode has the right output set as a tuner out so that you can run a dedicated unity gain signal to a tuner. If you want to run a dual mono output where they're both duplicate signals that are volume controlled of your left input. You would do that in the utility menu. So to get in there and make that change, you'll pull the power out, you'll hold both buttons down and apply the power until you see all the LEDs turn solid, and then let go. And that indicates that we're in the utility menu. You have 4 utility menu selections, and you can read about those different options in the manual, but for our case, we want to scroll to yellow, the 3rd utility menu entry, and the different modes are noted by LED 1 and 2. So if 1 is lit up, that tells us that we're in tuner out mode when running in mono. And to make a change, you simply hold down the left button. You'll see the LED will jump to 2 and blink, and then the pedal will reboot. And that means that we are now running in dual mono output mode. So we've talked about different ways to manipulate the response of your signal using the different parameters that we've built into Canvas Volume. You can also manipulate the physical feel of the treadle under your foot, how stiff or easy it is to move the treadle, how much drag is applied to that physical movement. To do that, it's pretty straightforward. You just look at the bottom of the pedal, and there is a hex head screw in the center, and you will turn this clockwise to increase the drag and make this more stiff to move, and then counterclockwise will loosen this up and make it a bit easier to move. So if you want to make it more stiff, we'd recommend turning this clockwise in half-turn increments, check the feel, and then continue to make adjustments to get that feel exactly how you'd like it to be under your foot.